Okay, some other kinds of experiments that Vygotsky um, used were, well, he basically used three key methods with subjects in order to observe the functioning of mediational means in problem-solving activity. He disrupted routine methods. He provided more than one route to solve a problem, and he posed tasks that exceeded the subject's knowledge and abilities. He describes, this is 1999, one of his volumes, his methods as follows. Vygotsky wrote, wishing to study the internal structure of higher mental processes, we usually do not limit ourselves to presenting the subject with simple stimuli, regardless of whether the stimuli are elementary or the task complex, to which we expect a direct response. We simultaneously present the subject another series of stimuli that functionally must play a special role, must serve as means for organizing his own behavior. In this way, we study the process of solving the problem with the use of certain ancillary means, and the whole psychological structure of the act becomes accessible to us over the whole course of its development and in all of the uniqueness of each of its phases. Participants usually, in one of his examples, not the one I'm going to show, but in one of his examples, he uses pictures of a crab, and he would try to get people to do some kind of memory task. Participants usually select the picture when given the opportunity that actually represents the item they are supposed to remember. Like if they are to remember crab, they pick a picture of a crab. That is unmediated memory in Vygotsky's view, a rule-based intellectual activity rather than a mediational one. He wasn't very interested in this simple association. What Vygotsky was intrigued by was what happened when he gave the person cards that didn't correspond to what they were required to remember. In his example, the crab card was used to remember something like theater. So what happened was the research subject made up a story relating the crab to the theater. Vygotsky describes that the participant explained the crab was looking into the ocean at some shells for which the crab were as entertaining as watching something in a theater. The research subject's understanding of the crab came out of a heuristic formed by the human subject and was based on a story that connected everything together. Not a simple one-on-one association, but a complex structure, a story. What Vygotsky didn't talk about was the fact that the crab in his example actually changed into a theater. So you need another kind of theory to talk about that. Vygotsky also developed the theory of proximal or proximate development. Actual development is what a person can accomplish on their own, and proximate development is what they can accomplish in collaboration with others. As far as with the demonstration that I'm going to show, he found that participants found a way to use these cards that he gave them to remember which colors they had named and which colors they had not named in a memory task. He found that adults would usually refuse to complete memory tasks until they mastered the system of relations as a whole between the signs that were associated with the task. On the other hand, very young children would set off immediately, having heard the instructions once, and try to complete the memory task. Of course, they would be unable to do so and would start asking questions about each individual stimulus, treating each one as if it operated under individual rules. Vygotsky posited that this demonstrated a less developed level of psychological processes since the child was relying solely on unmediated memory. After continuing the experiment long enough, the children began to see the relationships between stimuli and eventually came to an understanding of the system of relations as a whole. And I do want to say that while he worked with children, he definitely wasn't just somebody developing a theory like of children's learning. He was developing a theory of psychological development for people of all ages. He worked with all different kinds of people. After time passed, the children no longer needed external stimuli, the colored cards in my example, in order to complete memory task. He said, page 72, from 1978, Mind in Society, in its most developed form, this internal operation consists of the child grasping the very structure of the process, learning to understand the laws according to which external signs must be used. When this stage is reached, the children will say, I don't need pictures anymore. I'll do it myself. And this is as far as he got in his drawing, as far as just a very simple triangle trying to say that something else was going on. Something else, which was the mediational means, was coordinating between the stimulus and the response. And this is the extent of his diagram. Vygotsky states that his research has heuristic significance because it supports the idea of the correctness of the structural law of memory in contrast to the law of association. Vygotsky acknowledges, although it appears he studies memory, what he really studies is the active creation of structures.